This is a webinar reviewing the software engineering program and the application process for Cohort 2. This webinar will review the document called the Cohort 2 Overview, available on the SEP application website. In today's webinar, we will cover what is the software engineering program, how does it fit into CS for All, what resources are provided to SEP schools, what are the program requirements necessary to participate in the program, our curriculum, as well as the application process. So why computer science? There's an economic imperative. The number of CS jobs is growing at 2 times the national average, which will outpace all other STEM-related industries. By 2020, there will be 1.4 million new CS jobs nationally and only 400,000 CS students, a shortfall of 1 million. CS is prevalent in many industries, including finance, health, and education, which increasingly rely on software to manage, organize, display, and synthesize data. There's an increased need for technically proficient workers at all levels across nearly every sector. There's also a social imperative. CS represents a new literacy that promotes understanding of design and functionalities of technology we interact with daily. So with the software engineering program, we're really trying to create producers of the technology that they're seeing every day instead of consumers of that technology. It's also the ability to communicate, collaborate, and build relationships. It also fosters critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving skills. Through CS, New York City's 1.1 million public school students will be prepared for higher education and pathways to careers in technology and related fields. They will be able to gain skills to help them compete and thrive in the global marketplace. So in 2015, September, Mayor Bill de Blasio announced Computer Science for All, an initiative that will provide computer science education to every public school student over the next 10 years. The flagship program of the Department of Education to address this new call is the Software Engineering Program, which is a standards-aligned computer science software engineering education program for grades 6 through 12. The goals of the program are, 1, to increase the number of high school graduates, especially from traditionally underrepresented groups who are ready to enter new and emerging high-tech career pathways, and 2, to develop students' computational thinking and problem-solving skills in the real-world context. So it began as a pilot program in 2013, 3 years ago. As a pilot program, we provided our SEP schools with curriculum, materials, professional development, and program support. In exchange, schools provided a minimum of 2 current teachers committed to a full year, teaching a full year of the SEP course. As a result, students gained exposure to rich academic instruction on current, new, and emerging topics and fields in the software engineering field. They also gained opportunities, access to industry partners and opportunities for high-quality internship experiences. In year 3, our current year of the pilot program, we have reached 18 schools, 9 middle and 9 high schools, over 40 teachers, trained over 40 teachers, and have reached over 3,000 students citywide. These are currently the schools that participate in the program. As you can see, the majority come from Queens and the Bronx and Brooklyn. We are represented in all 5 boroughs, so there are some schools in Manhattan and Staten Island. Overall, the gender breakdown for the program so far has been about 40% female and 60% male. We hope one day to reach at least 50-50 female and male. But based on other statistics, it seems that this program is reaching a more diverse student body than some technically aimed high schools, where the female population is usually half of what we have accomplished in the software engineering program. Overall ethnic breakdown, you can see that most of the students are Black or Hispanic students. We are again trying to serve underrepresented groups, Black, Hispanic, and women. So what are the provided resources to schools that would be accepted in Cohort 2? The first is instructional support. Um, Instructional support will be provided for 3 years for middle schools and 4 years for high schools. Key to this instructional support is professional development for our teachers. We do provide per session, but all teachers are expected to attend 100 hours of professional development per year, starting the summer after they've been accepted into the program. This year's dates are July 11th through the 22nd. So this is a 2-week commitment for the 2 teachers that will be assigned. What we expect from our teachers is that they have no previous computer science experience. So the Summer Institute is really meant to jumpstart their knowledge and give them as much content as possible. So it's a very intense 2 weeks. But again, we do not assume any prior knowledge of computer science. Most of our teachers are in fact in the humanities and the sciences. There is no teacher certification for computer science. Some of our teachers who have a CTE background, career and technical education, will have a computer technology license. That's the closest thing or closest certification relevant to computer science. We are still in the process of trying to create a computer science certification, but that process is ongoing. So in addition to the 2-week Summer Institute, teachers are expected to attend monthly PD sessions where they receive refreshers on the content as well as time to plan their curriculum or lesson plans. These monthly sessions begin in August and will end the following May. For every year of the program, the teachers are expected to attend both a summer session and these monthly sessions throughout the year. But per session is provided. If you're a charter school interested in applying, instructional support, we cannot provide any per session for charter schools. Moving on to curriculum. If you're a middle school, you'll receive 3 years of project-based curriculum with unit plans and activities. If you're in high school, you'll receive 4 years of project-based curriculum with unit plans and activities. I wanted to show an example of our curriculum. So the project-based curriculum really works toward a project. Most of the topics will work toward a main project that our students will be working toward, which has made it very engaging for our students. Part of, or most of the curriculum is available online, using tools that are free and available online. The curriculum is available online. If for some reason any of the programming languages we use or tools that we use require any expense, this program will pay for the school's participation. It does not, there's never an expense to the school. I just want to open this link to the sample curriculum. So we say that we provide unit plans. Unit plans are different than daily lesson plans. Unit plans require the teacher to spend more time to provide or create these lesson plans. As a full credit course, there's 54 hours expected every semester of instruction in the software engineering program, which means about 180 minutes per week. This allows any school to use their schedule how they see fit, or schedule it as they see fit, as long as there's 180 minutes of content delivered. So let's go over the unit plan. This is one for our 6th grade web development curriculum topic. As you can see, the first topic is, how does the internet work? This is meant to be covered at the beginning, and the curriculum writer believes it'll take about 5 classes to teach this unit. Here you have some themes, as well as what standards it's aligned to. So currently we align to CSTA. However, there is a crosswalk between CSTA and Common Core. So these units can easily be aligned to Common Core. So in a unit plan, you get a unit description. What, if any, their prior knowledge is needed by the students? What are the goals at the end of the unit? And some planning notes for the teacher. So in this unit, you see that they recommend that you look at this Common Sense Media link to video and make sure it works. The next is vocabulary that's going to be covered in the unit, as well as an unplugged activity. So we know that connectivity can be trying at times in our schools. So if for any reason the teacher does not have access to the internet or prefers not to use the internet to teach the lesson, we provide an activity that can be done with no computer or internet access. And these are called unplugged activities. And there's a link there to these. There's also further exploration. So if a teacher wants to go further than what is already covered, there's some links to check out. The next page is the learning targets. So the I can statements based for the unit, and then some formative assessment that can be used for this topic so that students can display their understandings. Then last, it's the resource page where you receive resources that were referred to earlier in the unit, including that video of what is the internet from Common Sense Media, and additional resources that can be explored, as well as the names of the handouts that are necessary to run this unit. The handouts would be available online in the curriculum folder that our teachers have access to. So this is an example of a unit plan, but it's definitely not a lesson plan. So teachers will have to spend time reviewing or creating these lessons. Our Cohort 1 teachers have done a lot of this work, and we will be sharing out their work to Cohort 2 so they can see it themselves and decide how they want to develop their own lesson plans. So continuing on instructional support, the topics that we cover in the curriculum include but not limited to computer programming, web design and development, robotics, physical computing, game design, mobile apps, and 3D design. We also have access, or we have access with all New York City teachers have access to the computer science professional learning community for teachers who have been doing computer science in the city or are interested in doing computer science in the city. It is run by the New York City Foundation for Computer Science. It's a meetup group that meets usually after school. These are fun events where they can meet other members of the community and gain additional support, but again, this is optional. And the last instructional support we provide is interns. We recruit interns every semester from local universities, primarily NYU's Interactive Telecommunications program. They major at ITP at NYU. They have their curriculum covers very much what we cover in the sequences for both middle and high school. So based on the need of our cohort, we will go out there and recruit interns, and we will pay the interns centrally, so this is at no expense to the school. If you have questions about that, please feel free to contact me at rcardona@schools.nyc.gov. So in addition to instructional support, we also provide material support. So Cohort 2 will receive physical materials to support the implementation of the program for one section of students. So this year, we are able to provide a laptop cart of 30 MacBook Pros. We also provide 16 Lego Mindstorms EV3 robotics kits with a site license for the school to use the EV3 software. You'll notice that you're only receiving 16. This should be enough for 32 students because we assume pair programming, which means that 2 or more students are working on one device. We do provide in professional development advice on how to do pair programming with your students. You'll also receive 2 SparkFun Inventors kits. These are Arduino kits. This is to support our physical computing component of the software engineering program. So you'll receive 20 kits, which should be enough for 40 students using pair programming. You should also receive a parts refill pack because electronics has a lot of small parts, and these parts get lost throughout the year. We will replenish these kits throughout the years in the sequence because we understand as you age up, there's more students, and also parts get missing or broken. So you will be continually supported with physical computing materials. You'll also receive class sets of course books that support the different languages that are being taught in the curriculum, which include Scratch, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and processing. Additional materials may be provided in subsequent years based on the school's offering. So there are some topics that are optional to schools to implement, including 3D design. In the case of 3D design, if your school decides to implement that part of the curriculum, we can provide things like a 3D printer. So this will be on an as-need basis. We will work with Cohort 2 schools to decide what they want to offer and how we can best support them. So in addition to instructional support and material support, schools receive support for their students. We provide 3 main services for students. These things are required for teachers to participate in, at least the hackathons and the student showcase. So hackathons is something that is a long-standing practice in the tech community that we've adapted to students. The SEP hackathon is an all-day creative coding competition open to all of our students in grades 6 through 12. It gives them the opportunity to hone many of the computer science and software engineering concepts they've learned in the classrooms. But it also helps to build community across schools from all the students in all the 5 boroughs. They get to collaborate and learn from one another. There are two types of hackathons. There's the central hackathon, in which we centrally organize it in one location, and students from all 5 boroughs are invited to attend. For example, we've done them at Microsoft, and students from all 5 boroughs attend. These competitions will have a theme, and then they use their programming skills to develop a program that answers that theme or challenge. They receive prizes, there's food, there's giveaways. It's a very fun event. We also do another type of hackathon. Since our central hackathons are held in one location, usually in Manhattan or Brooklyn, we thought we'd be more open to try to make it more, to serve more students throughout the 5 boroughs. We've created a school-based hackathon in which schools can volunteer to host a hackathon at their school location for their own SEP students. We will provide food, instruction on how to create the hackathon, how to run the hackathon, marketing materials, and giveaways and prizes for the students. So the school-based staff are responsible for running the event. That's what's different about this versus the central hackathon. But in both cases, we will pay teachers per session who are involved. We also have a student showcase at the end of the year where students celebrate all of the fantastic work that they've done throughout the year. And we ask that all schools in our program participate. So there's 5 borough coverage of the event. And we cover all topics in the curriculum. So students really can show off whatever topic they choose, or any work that they choose. And again, the students are provided with prizes, giveaways at these events, and they're just meant to be fun and community building. Per session is provided for staff that volunteer or escort the students to come to the event. Lastly, we provide internships for our younger students. It is a 10-week program with 7 weeks of on-the-job experience, and about the rest of it is more about career readiness and providing them the soft skills they need to use those hard skills they're developing in the classroom in the workplace. However, we cannot provide internships for every student in the program, so spots are limited, but applications are open 3 times a year: the fall, spring, and summer, and all of our students in grades 9 through 11 are eligible to apply. They receive a stipend for their participation. So what are the program requirements necessary to participate in the program? There are 3 main requirements. The first is offer the course. We ask that you provide at least one section of the software engineering program for each year of the sequence. So if you're in middle school, we expect that in 2016-17, you'll be starting a 6th grade section, and then the following year, 7th grade, and then the last year in 8th grade. And same thing with high school. You would start with the 9th grade, age up to 10th, and then 11th and 12th. Some schools have asked could they offer multiple grades at one time. If it's consecutive grades like 6 and 7 at the same time, we do not recommend it because the 7th grade work is based on skills that they developed in the 6th grade curriculum. So the 7th grade students may not be prepared to undertake the work necessary in the 7th grade curriculum, and nor will the teachers, because in our professional development, we'll be working only with 6th grade content. Same for high school. Consecutive grades are not recommended, so 9th and 10th at the same time, not recommended for the same reasons that it's not recommended in middle school. If you're a 6 through 12 program applying, we can work with you if you want to decide that you want to offer both 6th and 9th grade. However, I think you'll need to send more teachers to participate in the program, so we're asking you to choose which grade you would focus on or apply for, either middle or high. But again, we will work with you on the application. Really, we want to get more to know about what you're thinking about and what your plan is, and we really try to be flexible to meet the needs of the schools, especially those who are highly motivated and interested. So if you're a 6 through 12 that's highly motivated and interested, we can work with you to make sure that this program is serving your students. So in addition to offering the course, we want you to ensure that there's broad student participation in the course, especially for girls and underrepresented minority students. Schools must provide their enrollment demographic data so that we can track this information. Second requirement, of course, is to staff the program, provide at least 2 licensed teachers to attend professional development sessions and student activities. We ask for 2 teachers because although 2 may not be teaching the section of the course that will be available at your school, we ask them to attend professional development because the following year, the second teacher may be teaching. And like I said before, the second year builds on the content from the first year. So it's good for the second teacher to have experience with what was done in the prior year. Also, it deals with attrition issues. So, for example, if the teacher who attends professional development leaves the school, at least there's one backup for the program, so the program doesn't disappear if one teacher decides to leave the school. We also ask that you dedicate an administrative point of contact for the program. There's a lot of administrative details involved with the program, including how to program the course in STARS. We provide guidance on how to do so if it's an elective versus a math or science requirement. There's also funding and material back and forth that will need to have a primary administrative point of contact. Important to note is that the program cannot provide funds for schools to cover the cost of staff at any point in the multi-year sequence. So one of the challenges with a multi-year sequence is, for example, if you have a 6th through 8th program and you only have 2 teachers, they may not be able to cover all grades. So you may want to hire an additional teacher to cover these grades. We unfortunately cannot cover the salary of teachers. We've also had a question in the past of, can more than 1 or more than 2 teachers apply or attend professional development? This will be on a case-by-case basis. In the past, our schools have sent more than 2 teachers. In the first year, the assumption will be that you send 2 teachers, we'll pay for 2 teachers, but if you want to send additional teachers, we just won't pay the per session for those additional teachers. But again, it will be on a case-by-case basis. Third is follow the SEP course sequence. So I'm going to go over the curriculum, but we need schools to follow the topics in the course sequence so that our professional development materials remain relevant to our schools. So if you decide to go off topic, you may be out of sync with the professional development, and it may not be as useful to you or to us when we are working with you. So let's go over curriculum. So for middle school, in the fall, we talk about, or we work a lot with Scratch. So there's some digital literacy component where they go over the basics of networks and internet technology. Not really keyboarding. So if keyboarding is what you're looking for, we can provide resources for that type of curriculum to be covered in addition to what we already provide. But they learn Scratch, which is a block-based program. So they're really learning the concepts of computer programming. Then we move on in the spring to web design using HTML. We use graphics to support the web design, so how to edit graphics. So that they can input it into their websites. We go over some data. This is called databases, but it's really spreadsheets. Understanding data is an important component to computer technology in today's society. And then lastly, we go over Lego robotics using the Lego EV3 kits. So we're really giving the students exposure to many topics so that they can get hooked in early into computing and the variety of things you can do with it. So not only programming, but physical things like Lego robotics. In 7th grade, they build on their Scratch knowledge. There's a little review at the beginning, and then they work with Game Star Mechanic to learn game design concepts. Game design is something that they may be doing in Scratch as well, so it's just building on a common theme in the program. Then in the spring, they get to work with physical computing. So they use their Arduinos, and they learn a little bit about audio and graphics, which is integrated into the web design curriculum, which will now build on what they learned in 6th grade by adding CSS. They will also learn mobile app development using Touch Develop. And then finally, in 8th grade, they build on their web design experience with incorporating or adding JS, JavaScript, to the HTML and CSS. They've already learned in 6th and 7th grade. And then they now gain exposure to text-based coding, really. They did have some of that in the Arduino exposure in 7th grade, but 8th grade will really focus on it with Python. And then in the spring, they have access to 3D design, interactive programming using a software called processing, or a language called processing, which uses very similar syntax to Java. And then last, they continue their work on physical computing, but this time incorporating some of the text-based coding that they've now learned in 8th grade, which is processing. Also, in all grades, digital portfolios are required. We really want students to be able to show off what they've learned and document it. So for the high school sequence, the high school sequence has 2 sequences, both career and technical education and just academic. Now, some of our schools will be pursuing career and technical education for program approval. It's a very intense process, and I encourage you to follow the link to learn more about it. But schools that are required or need or want to pursue the program approval process, we will provide support for that. However, because we're undergoing the program approval process, there's no guarantee that the program will be approved. So keep that in mind if you're a CTE school interested in applying for the software engineering program, that there's no guarantee that it's going to be approved. Some of the things that we're trying to deal with in the program approval process is as a CTE program, you are required to have a certified teacher, and right now there isn't a computer science certification. The most relevant, as I've mentioned before, is the CTE computer technology certification, which requires those who have that certification to have 2 years of professional experience in programming, in this case, to teach the program, which is not the case for many of the teachers who are in the SEP program or who will be in the SEP program. So that's one hindrance. The other is the exam. Every CTE program needs a culminating exam that schools or kids will take that shows the knowledge that they've learned in the program. There really isn't an exam that tests the software engineering skills that we have provided in the curriculum. So we're looking at a variety of different exams, and I will talk about the one that we are applying for in the CTE sequence. So here are the topics in the high school curriculum, and you'll notice that there's an academic program and there's a CTE program. Now, in both the high school, the academic and the CTE program, the topics are the same for 9th and 10th. It changes in 11th. That's where it starts to change. So what you'll notice about 9th and 10th grade is that these are the same topics that were covered in the middle school sequence. We did this intentionally. We developed two independent sequences, one for middle school and one for high school, because we know about the high school choice process in New York City, and there's no guarantee that a student who attended a SEP middle school would end up at a SEP high school. So we did not know if the students coming into the high school have had any exposure to the topics covered in the high school curriculum sequence. That's why it's designed this way. We do have a few 6 through 12s where the students have had exposure to the topics through middle school and are now going to high school where they're going to cover the same topics. So we will be working on guiding teachers on how to differentiate and make it a little bit more difficult for the students participating in the high school program. So 9th and 10th grade reflect all of the 6th through 8th topics, with the addition of networking in 10th grade, where they learn back-end web design. So it gets a little bit further than the 8th grade does. So let's go on to 11th grade. But again, they're doing this in the first 2 years of the program, and it gets much more advanced when we hit 11th and 12th grade. So 11th grade in the academic program is JavaScript for web design and development, and then JavaScript game design with 3D design. The CTE program the third year of the CTE program would be the exam year. So this is where the students would work toward taking an exam. The exam that we are seeking program approval for will be the AP Computer Science Principles exam. There's a link there to learn more about that. It's the new computer science advanced placement exam that really tests students' knowledge of computational thinking skills, so certain skill sets, but it does not test on a particular language. So it's more flexible than existing computer science advanced placement exams, as well as really testing our students' knowledge of what they developed. They can demonstrate these skills using any of the languages that they've learned already in the software engineering program, but they're not required to learn one particular language. Currently, we work with the Beauty and Joy of Computing curriculum in the SEP program, which requires no knowledge of computer science by neither the teacher or students. So it's really a great curriculum. If you're interested in applying, you can apply to both the Beauty and Joy of Computing program and the SEP program. We just ask that the teachers be different because the teachers assigned cannot do both programs. Our professional development overlaps, so it wouldn't be impossible for teachers to participate in both professional development programs. So definitely another teacher would have to be assigned. Moving on to 12th grade. The academic only program would cover now programming for the web using P5 JavaScript, which is a very new and creative programming library or a language that is the latest in the industry. If you're in the CTE program, you would be offering what the academic program did in 11th grade, which is JavaScript for web design and development, JavaScript for game design and 3D design. Again, Digital portfolios are required across all grades. This is for students to demonstrate their work not only to their teachers and to SEP program staff, but to future employers. So we would encourage students to develop GitHub accounts, and we would provide professional development on how to, for teachers to create or teach how to create a GitHub account. So one more note on the curriculum. We've had questions about students with special needs and how flexible this work is for our students with special needs. Well, I would say that that's been a high interest among our teachers. So they developed resources that address the needs of some special needs students as well as English language learners. However, I would say that based on the needs of the student, they definitely need to be verbal, and there is the use of fine motor skills in our curriculum, so they need to have that ability as well. Again, we will continue to provide professional development on how to teach these topics to special needs students and students, English language learners, and we will also share out the resources that have been created by Cohort 1 teachers, but it's not appropriate for all types of disabilities. Again, they should be verbal and be able to use fine motor skills. And high-functioning autistic children have done pretty well so far in the program. So let's finally, let's review the application process. Eligibility. All New York City public schools, middle and high, are eligible and welcome to apply, as well as charter schools. However, if you're a charter school, we can only provide non-financial resources if admitted into the program, which would mean that charter schools will not receive any of the material support provided to the other SEP schools, and would only be provided curriculum support, but no material support and no per session. So keep that in mind if you're a charter school applying for the program. The purpose of the SEP program, our application process, is to assess each school's overall capacity for offering a multi-year sequence of computer science. So the application will consist of an online application followed by an interview for selected finalists. At the interview, we will be asking that the principal, the administrative point of contact, and the teachers who will be assigned be present. I'm going to go over this timeline. So we've had a few webinars, and then we have the deadline upcoming on February 22nd, where we need the applications online due by 5 p.m. March 14th is the goal to choose the finalists, notify finalists that they should schedule interviews, and then finalist interviews would happen from mid-March to early April. Final decision should happen by mid-April, or April 11th. And then in July, professional development begins for the schools selected in the program. So to reiterate, the application will collect information about your school so we can know how to effectively support you, your teachers, and your students. And it's also meant to encourage you to begin thinking about and planning how your school will implement the SEP computer science education curriculum for next year. What I've provided online at the sepnyc.org/application, if you visit that website, you will see the SEP overview, which is basically the content in this webinar. But once you click on it, you see this document. This document has some additional, it reiterates everything we've covered, but also has some additional resource, which I'm showing you here is the selection criteria. So we're giving you a little insight into what we will be basing our selection into, and also the rubric, so how each school is being graded. And then lastly, it has a checklist. So you know that you have everything you need before you submit the online application. So we ask you to, in step 1, to review the application overview, the document that I'm showing you here. Also review the Learning Partners program and determine if your school would like to be part of a computer science focus area where if you participate, you will be paired up or be a partner with another school who has been doing computer science, so our cohort 1 schools, and you will share best practices. So it's a great opportunity for our schools, but if you decide on saying yes to learning partners, then you would be required to fill out the Learning Partners Program application. Also, in step 1, if you're a school that is applying for a high school program, you would need to indicate whether or not you would be participating in the CTE program approval process with us. So that's easily a yes or no, but we recommend you review the requirements before submitting. And the reason why we are pursuing CTE, we have a lot of CTE schools, but also one advantage to CTE is that they provide VITEA funding to schools for CTE programs. So it means additional funds to the school, which might support the sustainability of the program at the school. Okay, in step 2, this is a list of all the information we're going to be asking for in the application. So you can collect, I recommend you collect this information in a separate document before you submit it in the online application. So it includes all of the essay questions as well. You can see what I've also included in the webinar is a link to the reference application, which is a copy of the online form just for your reference. This cannot be submitted. You must submit the online application form. The online application form can only be submitted once. However, you will be sent an edit link once you submit the application. So you'll be able to edit the online answers until the deadline, February 22nd. At the very last question in the online form is this a complete application? If it is, if you say yes, then I will read your application. If you say no, then I will assume that you're still editing the application, and so I should not be reading it, but you can share the edit link with your colleagues and make the appropriate edits that you need. So once you start the application process, you will receive an automated email with your edit link, which will allow you to edit the application until the deadline. But again, you can only submit it once. So once you say, yes, this is a final application, that is your final application. You cannot make changes after that. Again, the online application is due February 22nd. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at rcardona@schools.nyc.gov. I look forward to reading your applications. And that concludes the webinar.